Welcome to another episode of Chaotic Sports. My name is Chris Sarda. This is my co-host, Angelo Suboro. We have a third co-host that we've had the last few weeks, Zachary Sarda. Hi, Zachary. He talks all the time, not when every time I introduce him, he just stares.
You put him on the spot. One cannot talk that good in front of, if he knows millions are listening.
Yeah.
He's that type of guy.
He probably is. But you'll hear Zachary's babbling in a little bit, just like you hear. There it is. Yeah. Just like you'll hear Angelo's babbling a little bit. Yeah. You can find us at Chaotic Sports on Twitter. You can find me at Chris Art on Twitter. You can also go to YouTube and find us at Chaotic Sports. Trying to grow that channel. Probably start doing videos on there soon of our. It's not cool to say hot takes anymore, right?
I mean, I don't think
you shouldn't say the word hot take.
I don't think I've ever said a hot take.
Well, you know what a hot take is.
The only thing I've ever said was like hot girl, hot pocket.
Hot pocket.
Like it might be it. Hot sauce.
Hot sauce. There you go.
I mean, I've said hot, but I can't think of hot. I don't think I've ever said hot take.
That's three things, not hot take. But so you made me lost my train of thought, dude. Anyway, we just got.
You were saying you were talking about videos. You're talking about videos.
Oh yeah, we'll eventually do videos in there with more subject oriented on whatever's happening. Maybe like 5-minute kind of things. Although the podcast we tend to banter and rant. The videos are going to have to be very focused and know what we're going to say, like know what our opinion is. So you got 5 minutes, shoot it out.
We ran on that too. Why wouldn't we rant on that?
Well, it's a different form of media. You can't just sit and the podcast is on YouTube too. But when we do the videos, there'll be a title. The title will be something like "Golden State does not need Kevin Durant," and then we have a 5-minute. He likes it. Then we have a 5-minute rant about that.
That would actually be easier.
What? It would be easier.
A 5-minute rant on a specific subject is very easy than an hour and a half on gibberish.
We do an hour and a half, but it's easier and harder because it has to be focused with points, and it has to get to the point where it's harder because it's an hour and a half, 45 minutes, whatever. But it's what we do anyway. You'd be sitting at my house. We wouldn't be recording. We'd be drinking coffee, soda.
Or my favorite water.
Or your favorite water. Various forms, sometimes carbonated, sometimes flavored. And we'd be talking about sports anyway. The only way this is controlled is that we go, okay, here's the 3 topics, and we'll get to them eventually.
Yeah.
But the videos would be a little bit more focused, for search reasons, for various reasons, but then it would be easier, like you said, because 5 minutes, we could do 5 minutes on our own about whether Kevin Durant needs to be on Golden State, whether Golden State needs Kevin Durant or not.
But some of our videos would just be about nothing.
No,
you don't think people like to just watch a video about
no
chaos and gibberish?
I think they like chaos and gibberish, but that's the focus of the podcast. Do you understand that there are going to be different focuses and different manners to do things?
Well, if we're doing
this is like a drive time show.
If we're doing it
while you're washing the dishes or washing your car.
But you're saying if we're doing a video, it's just like how you do comic videos, how people do video game videos. You're talking about a certain game. See what I'm saying? So if we're talking about a certain game, not video game, but we're going to be talking about a basketball game, baseball game.
Yeah, a certain topic within the basketball game. 5-minute shots, easy to take in on YouTube.
I can do that with my eyes closed, man.
Yeah, well, especially together, it's easier. And here's the thing: we'll be doing that on this show too. When we do the video, it'll just be a little bit tighter.
The first 5-minute video we do, I'll have my eyes closed the whole time.
Yeah, well, I mean, probably because you're not very experienced in doing videos.
I'm just saying, I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to do the whole podcast.
It could be 8 minutes. It could be 9 minutes. You know what's a good example of what I would want to do? Chael Sonnen does videos on YouTube. They're all about MMA, but I think he does a good job. Every now and then one is 20 minutes. Yeah, every now and one is 20 minutes, and sometimes they're 2 minutes. Man. He's really good. He's another guy on the other podcast we were talking about good talkers. Yeah. Chael Sonnen's actually very good also.
Yeah.
And he's sort of ready for it too and gotten used to it, so...
Well, he has his paperwork in hand. I mean, he already practiced. He knows what he's going to talk about.
Yeah, he knows his take. So it's the same idea. So the videos are for that, and then the ranting chaos is, and even just deciding our ideas, because we argue a little bit, or sometimes we disagree, sometimes we half agree. Yeah. That's for the podcast, and the podcast is great. So you use a knife to cut bread, you use a fucking spoon to eat cereal. That's the idea. There's tools for doing certain things. Anyway, so videos eventually. I told everyone where they can find us. So I mean, let's just get started. Before we get to the topics at hand, let's do a little chaos here. I mean, what did we just finish recording an hour and 20 minutes on? I mean, because we have a sister podcast where we just fucking
we talked about some comic stuff, some Star Wars, some Batman, whatever. We talked about Game of Thrones.
So basically, the idea is that we have a chaos sports focused podcast where we could talk about anything.
Yeah.
And then we do a second podcast where the focus is like pop culture, movies, Avengers, Game of Thrones,
all the good stuff.
Everything else. And hey, if we want to talk sports on that podcast, we can. But the focus is different. Like here, I mean, we might talk a little Game of Thrones or Star Wars if it comes up. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers. Well, right now I'm
Aaron Rodgers just became like ethnic like a minute ago.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't bring that up on the other podcast.
I forgot to, but maybe that's a good way to bring Game of Thrones up on this one.
I guess we're just all up. We're chaos, dude. That's why we're called that.
That's why I called the new
because that was one
channel
thing I
Chaos
wanted you to bring up. I was wondering about that. He went on a big rant about the ending.
Oh,
and all this
that's
crap.
Actually, we should have brought it up on the Game of Thrones podcast, but we'll bring it up here. So the first part is that when we were originally talking about him being an extra, we assumed he was an extra like 5 times. But
I thought I saw him in 1 or 2 scenes. One of them was the one running away.
Well, that's what that video, or that's what the article said. But he confirmed that he was not the archer, even though it looked like him. And he said he was not the guy running away from the fire. Because he goes, I can't believe people... His quote was, I can't believe people thought I was that guy. That guy's so unathletic.
He said that?
He said that about that guy.
Oh, he's like... So he's saying he would have got away from the fire.
Maybe. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to...
Does Aaron Rodgers know that he wasn't Aaron Rodgers in Game of Thrones?
That's true. He doesn't know he's an actor, right? So, I mean, unless it was... Who's the guy that broke his collarbone? I forgot the guy's name. But unless it was a certain Bears linebacker.
Michael Urlacher.
No, it wasn't Urlacher. Anyway, so I guess he was the picture by the tower. That was his part.
Well, he was in the lineup with all the other guys.
In the tower, by the tower?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
because that's how Thor's scene was. He was like on a horse with like center guard in a lineup with a bunch of other soldiers. Okay. That was his only scene.
And I guess, I mean, you'd think you'd reuse a bunch of actors, right? A bunch of extras. You'd think if you were an extra on the show, you would be in like 5 scenes.
Oh, I'm sure you
know what I mean?
Because nobody notices you anyway. You're just a random.
Yeah. So he did go on a rant about Game of Thrones. Now, and for people that want to hear us do this chaos shit about Game of Thrones, please go to at Chaos and Comics on Twitter, or we'll post the podcast on the Chaotic Sports podcast too. But go check out that podcast, and we'll rant a lot about it. But we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers' rant.
And I guess
he basically wasn't into it.
But it's fitting because we're talking, this is a sports podcast, and that's a sports athlete, so we have to kind of...
We do whatever we want, yeah. It just fits in this case. We could plug the other podcast, and we could talk about Aaron Rodgers.
It's like we set it up this way.
Yeah, it's like we did. It wasn't chaos. Look, that's how he feels about it.
Yeah, he's happy.
Well, how do you think he's reacting to Aaron Rodgers' reaction?
Aaron Rodgers.
Is he reacting to Aaron Rodgers' reaction or Game of Thrones?
I don't know. He's just happy. It seemed like it. So for your scene, like for the rant of the third GOAT in the league or whatever it is, who would...
He's the GOAT.
Oh, he's not the GOAT. Tom Brady's the GOAT. But for that rant, what did you think of the rant? Like, I mean, he specifically said he hated the ending, blah blah blah, right?
I think that he had the similar view that most people did, that a lot of plot lines weren't taken up, and then everyone has their view on who should have been on the throne. And he was, I guess we could try not to do spoilers, so he was disappointed about who ended up being the king of Westeros kind of thing. So it was basically the same stuff. I just guess people felt unfulfilled, and Aaron Rodgers was one of them.
Yeah, and he just kind of, he mentioned that he was pissed about who kind of won the throne, and he was like, everybody else's story was better than that story, so this is like crap, you know?
Well, that's true. The way they set it up, they said, you know, the person that they gave it to said, you have the greatest story, and then that's where Aaron Rodgers went crazy. He goes, everyone else had a better story. Cersei had a better story. Dany had a better story. Jon Snow had a better story. Tyrion had a better story. So, I mean, that's the quality of the story. Really brands, I mean, if this was real... if that was a real place where fantasy was only a little bit in the mix, Brand's story is the craziest. I mean, he became the three-eyed raven and can see the fucking past and shit. You know what I mean? So Brand's story actually was the craziest, even though it wasn't the best well-developed story in the show. But, so he's pretty pissed about it, which is really interesting.
I didn't see the video. I just heard some comments.
I read it. I
heard his take on it.
I read his take on it. So,
so that's
that.
Well, let's jump on something
anyway,
else.
so that is that's the intro. We got another podcast. We also talk about Batman. We talk a little Star Wars. Good article came out there. So what I want to get into here is, I want to call it the biggest news, but it turns out LeBron not being, it should be the biggest news because it's the NBA playoffs, it's the East. Turns out LeBron not being in the Eastern Finals has really hurt the ratings. People don't seem to be watching the.
Well, nobody watches the East anyway, but it was a little bit because of LeBron.
They watched a ton. It's down half.
No, but at least
because of LeBron.
Yeah, East has always been the less viewed league. Everybody, all the dominant players. If you look at like the top 20 players in the NBA,
well, no,
like 16 of them are in the West.
Yeah, but you're just saying something right now.
No, that's
it is not. The West has been better. It has not been less viewed because there's still fans in New York.
I know, but
so it's dropped because LeBron is the
nobody's
LeBron is
the
a
Knicks
worldwide.
And the Pistons. Everybody's watching. Everybody wants to watch the Golden State and stuff.
So people definitely are watching the Knicks and the Pistons. I mean, it's down for two reasons. One, LeBron's not there.
And one, lack of stars in the East is what I'm trying to
Number
tell
two, there's two, arguably the two best players in the league are playing in that series.
And 18, the rest of the 18 of the top 20 are all in the West.
All we're talking about right now
are the East.
Is the East Championship, which is two teams with
those are both small
top five players.
You're talking about Milwaukee.
Good. I was going to tell you the other reason.
I know.
So what you said isn't the reason. The other reason is that the markets are small, and also what some people don't seem to be fucking paying attention to is that
Celtics versus the Knicks.
What some people don't seem to be paying attention to is that Toronto TVs don't count towards US towards US ratings.
Yeah.
Everyone's counting like what's on TNT, who watches TNT, but the people watching on TSN or whatever it is in Canada don't get counted.
They'll help add a little bit to it.
But it's heavily that reason. And LeBron's a big star. I mean, you try to always bring down LeBron, but LeBron's the big star. He brings people to TVs.
Yeah.
And he's
been driving the Eastern Conference for 10 years.
Yeah, and he's been driving the NBA, to be honest. He's been the story in the NBA. Whether you like him or hate him, the story has been, I think LeBron's great.
So has Steph Curry and some other players.
Yeah, but Steph Curry isn't recognized around the world. LeBron and Jordan are. Those are LeBron, Jordan, Kobe are the transcending figures in the NBA of the last 30 years. Those three.
Yeah, I mean,
otherwise, you only know them if you're a fan, or you're a vague sports fan. Those three
are like Yao Ming's recognized.
Well, Yao Ming in China.
Yeah,
and that's definitely important too. So Yao Ming gets up there, but those three.
Yeah.
And LeBron not even being in the playoffs has really hurt them. But beyond that, I only wanted to mention that your prediction was that you didn't want to say 6 games because I said it, but you really thought 6 games.
I said 7 though. Right?
Was that you said 5 actually, and then you said 7, then you said 5 again. Your prediction was that Toronto would win. Now Toronto looked terrible the first 2 games, but it turns out that this might be a real home game.
Yeah, they looked great. Like game 2, they were up like 20. They dominated, and then they gave up they lost in the fourth quarter,
and then lost at the end.
They gave away a game or something.
Yeah, I mean Blazers did the same.
Yeah.
I almost feel like you're really talking about the Blazers game, but
yeah.
But so it seems like it's going to be a real home game kind of thing. And if it's a home game thing, then that means Milwaukee will win.
You didn't see Toronto winning by 20 last night.
I did. I watched it.
No, but you didn't see it. I'm saying beforehand, you didn't see it happening.
Oh, no, not at all, actually. But part of that happening was Lowry having a good game. Despite Chris Middleton having a great game and stuff, Lowry really showing up, which he's, people don't notice it as much because he's not a superstar player, but he's actually disappeared in the playoffs over the last.
He is.
Over his career, he's disappeared, and he's not been a great playoff player this year either.
He's a guy you don't notice really. He's just slow on the court, kind of chubby. You wouldn't even notice him but
still a really good player.
Yeah. The other guy that played good was Sakim or whatever.
Yeah.
He's been doing good.
So everything sort of clicked.
And Ibaka.
Yeah, and what I want to compare it to, though, is the East and the West, and the differences between these teams and Golden State is that everything clicked for Toronto, and they won by 20. 2 days ago, the Blazers played fucking amazing. Everyone was playing well for the Blazers. They still lost. And I just want to compare it. I just want that as an example, and that's without Durant, on how much better Golden State is without Durant than everybody, in my opinion. I think they're going to murder Toronto if Toronto makes it through. I think they're going to murder Milwaukee if Milwaukee makes it through. Maybe not a sweep. And by the way, you're giving me no credit for predicting the sweep of the Blazers. I called that last week. Yeah, I said it like 5 times. All you remember you think is of you, and then you only remember when you're right.
No, I don't listen to what you're saying. I mean,
you literally said last week 5, 6, and 7 games. Whatever it ends up being, you're gonna be like, I predicted that.
No, I didn't say. I just said Toronto's gonna win. You know what I mean?
Last week you said 5, 6, and 7 games.
No, I said Golden State's gonna dominate too. I didn't say a sweep. I thought Portland would.
I'm pretty sure that it was going to be a sweep, is what I said last week, and ended up being that way. Blazers came really close in 2 games. The problem is that Golden State's better.
Golden State. So you're asking, is Golden State that much better?
I'm not asking. I'm telling you that.
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah. I mean, it's like without Durant, they won a title without Durant. It's like
already,
and I think they're even more motivated right now. You're
getting to prove it.
Yeah, you're getting a better effort out of Draymond Green, and he's actually not crying and moaning every play now. He's just playing.
Yeah, I mean, he was never a crier and moaner. I mean, he was a talker.
He was a crier and moaner.
No, he's a talker.
Well, he's a talker. And
so he's going to talk. No, but he's talking shit to players, like he's talking shit to refs, like he's talking shit to coaches.
He's complaining about every damn play, but he's not doing that. He didn't do that last game.
But they want. I don't want to get into that again, but you sort of look at that the wrong way with certain people.
No, I mean that when you're doing that, you're losing some of your ability on the court because you're not focused. When you're focused on the game.
I don't want to talk about that. No, that's not true, but I don't want to talk about it.
I don't care what you want to talk about.
Oh, go ahead and say what you want to say.
No, but I'm saying, well, are we talking about Golden State? I'm telling you why I think they're that much better.
Yeah, I just don't want to get into the referee yammering shit again. We did that too much.
They're motivated without Durant. They're trying to show that they're still a great team. They won a title without Durant. Draymond's a little more focused and motivated. Klay Thompson's always giving you Curry's there.
And the fact is that even if they get down by 17, they're such a good shooting team.
Yeah, and then
that 17's a joke. They'll come back anytime from that.
Iguodala's playing like good D.
He's hurt though. I think he might be out. Yeah, I think he may be out for the finals. We'll see about that.
But you're right with the 3-point and how the Golden State can score. Didn't they go out like on a 15-2 run at the end or whatever they did?
Something crazy. Yeah.
It was like it was the only way that Portland can lose, and it happened.
And the truth is we've seen the Rockets lose that way multiple times now. To Golden State, that even if the Rockets are playing great and the Blazers are just a lesser version of Golden State, at any time Golden State will just come back, get hot at any time.
It'd be like Clay and Curry could easily hit a couple threes each, and all of a sudden they came back.
That's 12 points.
Yeah, in like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
not even.
So I think we still agree. Now, obviously, the momentum or disagree. The momentum is on your side that Toronto will win because they've won these last 2 games and looked great last night. I don't know that team can keep it up. Also, there's not enough talk about Kawhi actually getting hurt in that game and playing through it. So that is now 3 more games that he might have to play if it goes to 7. I think it still might go to. I might change now that I see it's 2-2 that it'll be a 7.
Jump on my game 7.
Who knows? You said all 3, but now that it's 2-2, I might think it goes to 7. I think that even though they lost by 20, Lowry's not going to keep that up. I think Middleton is a better player than people realize. He's coming into his own. They're going back home. The Greek Freak didn't have a great game, so Giannis will have another good game. I think that Milwaukee's still just better than this team. I'm not ready to say that Giannis, even though he'll win the MVP this year, I would still rather have Kawhi. I'm not ready to say that kind of stuff.
Harden's not supposed to win the MVP? I actually thought Harden's going to win the MVP.
Harden probably will win the MVP, but if Giannis won the MVP, no one's going to be throwing up on the floor. If Giannis, they haven't finished voting yet.
Could it be a co-MVP? But I picked Harden.
I mean, I think Harden's going to win it, but here's the thing. I don't know who's voted yet. So if Giannis makes it to the finals, that's going to sway some people.
That's not supposed to matter.
It's not supposed to, but it will. It doesn't matter if things aren't supposed to happen. They happen.
Every year it happens, but it's not supposed to happen. This is a regular season.
If Giannis, and then there's something else is not supposed to happen, the way that people don't want to give MVPs 2 years in a row. They think, we just gave Harden an MVP.
Yeah, let's
give it. It shouldn't matter. Clayton Kershaw should have 7 Cy Youngs, but because he won it and then Matt Harvey had a good year, they give it to Matt Harvey. So anyway, it shouldn't happen, but it might. And if Giannis wins it, it's not a crazy loss, dude.
They
to
have
me,
the second best record in the East, right?
Yeah, to me, dude, Giannis, and to me, it's that close.
It is that close.
And I'm a Rockets fan.
I was looking at the numbers, and Harden had a better year as far as like
offensive numbers.
Yeah, well,
that's the problem, dude.
No, offensive numbers, but like it was like first in points. It was like fifth in assists, first or second in threes. He was like top 5 in like 4 or 5 categories, and Giannis was like third in points. Giannis was like top 10 in like 2.
So that's all fine.
Like, yeah,
but there's the big thing that brings Giannis back is that one, Giannis can score anywhere. He's not a shooter really, but he can score from any part.
Well, that's not part of the MVP.
It is. It's the best player. So it's not necessarily stats. And the second thing, the biggest thing is that he's a 50-time better defender than James Harden. I mean, so that other side,
and his team finished with a better record.
I mean, arguably the only better two-way player in the league is Kawhi than Giannis.
Yeah.
So that's something to take into account. So those are the things that they might take.
Game needs a little help, but he's just so athletic that he could just fly. If you watched the game yesterday, you just see him. He can get from like one end to the other end in like 5 steps and just dunk on somebody.
Yeah, and from the 3-point line or from in front of the 3-point line, 2 steps, and it not be a travel.
Yeah, and like Sakim is like, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He actually is very similar body wise to Giannis. He's not as athletic, but if you see them next to each other, they're both lanky and crazy. But Kawhi, who's a great defender, is obviously having a little trouble here and there guarding Giannis because...
Well, he's doing well enough
he's doing well enough, but I'm saying it's just so hard to guard that type of...
yeah, I mean, I always thought Durant has a similar body type. He's just a little older.
No, Durant's lanky.
Lanky, but a little bit stronger, yeah. But those are the reasons why I wouldn't be pissed if Giannis would... Because Harden's going to have better offensive stats than everyone in the league because he has the ball 40,000 more dribbles than everyone in the league. So, like, his style of play, it just works that way. So, I don't want to fucking argue against Harden because he's my favorite player.
I know, but is most valuable player... Is it best player in the league or most valuable player to their team?
I mean, we're getting into chaos.
No, I'm just saying because that's the same question every year. It's
well,
like,
then,
what is it?
I mean, then it is. Then they both have an argument.
I was just about to say because
Harden, they both have an argument.
You're right. That's like, so is it co-MVPs then?
I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that either.
One thing I would say
what I'm saying is I think Harden should win it too. Giannis is so close, I wouldn't be pissed about it. And if it were co-MVPs, I wouldn't be pissed about it because that would have to tie in a vote, though. That would just have to end up tying in a vote.
Yeah, that'd be kind of weird.
Yeah. I mean, because you can't vote for co-MVP, although that would be awesome.
The third thing I would say is, the only thing I'm sure of is Paul George shouldn't be third MVP.
I mean, he'll probably end up being third.
No, he's third. I thought he was the one on the ballot. I thought there was like...
we already saw the ballot.
Well, there was 3... They were talking about the 3 leaders of the MVP, and I saw the picture that had Paul George.
It is wild. It is...
Harden.
Yeah, it is wild. For number one, though, I don't want to cut down what Paul George has done because we know why he's done it. But him coming back from that broken leg and him executing, and I'm sure Boston fans or fans of I forget his name, the white guy on Boston,
Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, I'm sure Hayward hopes that Hayward's role goes like Paul George because Paul George came back and played okay.
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't want to cut down what he did, but obviously it's. For us, what you want to say and what I agree with is that Paul George being MVP and being close is cool, but the other guy on his team is also MVP level, and somehow that team isn't fucking in the mix.
Well, that's what I mean. So
they probably have 2 MVPs on the team.
Well, they have 2 of the better players in the league, but I don't know about MVP this year. I don't think George is nowhere near MVP this year.
But those numbers are there.
No, he was like 10th in the league in points or something scoring. And I don't know about his other stats, but I don't think he's anywhere near the top of anything. And the Oklahoma finished like 8th in the West.
Yeah, so that's not supposed to matter.
I brought up like...
I would have to get to the stats. I
brought up Joel Embiid, and maybe even Curry or somebody would be my vote before George. Because Embiid was like 5th in points and like 5th in rebounding. And Sixers had a good year. I mean, there's players...
It's hard for me to say it right now. I think Paul George deserves to be in that mix. But I mean, Westbrook is in the mix too, and no one's talking about him. I mean, did he end up averaging a triple-double again? How close did he come?
That's a good question, but I think he almost did.
He may have just barely missed it. But that's what we got to. If he would have averaged a triple-double, no one would have gave a shit. You know, I think he may have averaged a triple-double.
I don't think anybody gives a crap because
triple-doubles aren't the same.
They're not the same, exactly. So, like, you're having a triple-double when your team's helping you push the stats and, like, you're getting, like, nobody's going for a rebound just so you can get those last 3 rebounds, and then your team's, like, 8th in the league. It's like nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, but I don't think people think that that's the reason. I'm surprised you saying that about Westbrook because you were real big on his triple-double year. But you've seen it now that maybe that kind of stuff's happening.
Yeah, it is happening. It's happening with a lot of players are the scoring. It's easier to score in the league now than it was back in the day. And I think I think the rebounding stats are getting a little push.
Of the triple-double stats, though, that was always the easiest to get to 10. So I mean, if you're still dropping in 10 rebounds and 10 assists, that's still a big deal to me. It was always easy to get 10 points if you're going to have the triple-double. That's the easiest part of it.
Yeah, the rebounds is harder, but I mean, if you're a guard always going for the boards and your team's big guys are kind of letting up, so you get a few extra. I mean, it's not as
So he averaged 11. No, he averaged a triple-double, dude.
See, so nobody cares.
And no one even talked about it. So he averaged 11 total rebounds a game, 10.7 assists.
But see, nobody cares because he's not
and 22
making
points.
His team better. They're not doing anything.
Yeah, so it didn't make adjustments. But what's funny is that those numbers probably put him in the mix. No one's talking about him. And then Paul George is getting in the mix. And he should be, an outside. Everyone knows he had a good year kind of thing. I think that's an important thing. But I agree that he shouldn't be.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like a top. I would go Embiid or Curry or Westbrook or even before George,
Anyway, let's move on. Let's spin off into. I only want to talk hockey a little bit, just the intensity that Vegas fans feel. Last night, tell us what happened. The Vegas Golden Knights have been out of it for weeks now, but Vegas hockey fans have still been paying attention to one team throughout the 2 series.
Well,
so explain the feelings, explain the series, and explain why there's this hatred and focus on it.
Well, the reason why is because the San Jose refs were dominating and going round by round because their brothers and sisters were blowing calls and helping their team out, But after they moved on, the Sharks fans were just going a little overboard with the hatred on the Vegas Knights and the league and saying that the calls weren't blown, that they're saying it wasn't lucky, that they're there because they're great and a good team or whatever. So a lot of people have been rooting for the Blues. Not only do you have a former Golden Misfit on the Blues, David Perron, you also have like your hatred against the rivalry Sharks and your love for Perron, and you're just kind of jumping on. You just want the Blues to go to the finals. So
beat them. But so when so I think because the Avs finished their series real hot, and we were hoping that the Avs would beat San Jose, and then San Jose comes down ahead. And then the Blues, the Sharks actually had, I think, one really good game against them.
The Blues,
they won 2, but they won one really good game against them.
Well, the other one they won was because of that hand pass.
Oh yeah, the hand pass was against the Avs.
No, it wasn't. It was against the Blues. Oh, you might be right.
The hand pass was game 7.
Call. You're right. I'm thinking of another back call.
Because that call was so bad that the Avs probably would have won.
Yeah.
And there was probably a bad call.
There was something else in the Blues game.
So, anyway, finally they lost. And now, like, you almost feel like it's done, right? Like, the Golden Knights story is done, that the San Jose Sharks didn't even get anything from it.
You can now tell the Golden Knights season is over. We don't have to worry about
just watch hockey for fun.
Well, now you can just enjoy the finals, Boston and the Blues, and you don't have a team in the race, right?
Maybe the Blues because of Perron.
Yeah, I would think I'd probably just go for the Blues to win.
Yeah, I don't want Boston to win, so that's good. Anyway, I just want to talk about feelings, just because we're a Vegas podcast, so. And I know people were excited. You had been tweeting about those hockey games, like you were watching the hockey games and watching the basketball games on the side because you were just so intense on seeing San Jose lose.
We just wanted to see them suffer their fate because they were ungrateful and just a little cocky about how they won and saying it was skill and everything else.
A little. Well, we were being cocky too. So let's spin it over to a little MLB. Now, on MLB.com, they had a pretty good article. You see these articles all the time, but they had a pretty good article about 5 crazy summer trades by Anthony Castrovince. So I want to run some of these ideas by you, and we're going to do a little AL Central. Look at this guy. What's he trying to get?
Going crazy.
So I want to talk about a couple trades that Anthony Castrovince put up here. So one of them is going to go right into your AL Central, and I know that you believe that no matter what the Twins do, they could trade for Vladimir Guerrero, Clayton Kershaw, Corey Bellinger, and add that to their team, or Cody Bellinger, and Corey Seager. I was mixing them both, and you'll be like, the Indians are the best.
If they got Kershaw, Cody Bellinger, and Vlad Guerrero Jr., I would say Twins are probably a little better than Indians right now.
Oh, a little better.
Yeah,
just a little.
Just a little.
So
that'd be the only
anyway, they're up like 7 games, and the Indians obviously have Kluber injured, so I mean they're gonna catch up at least. And the Twins have been known to fall apart, but they spent a lot of money on offense. One of the trades that this MLB article talks about is maybe Marcus Stroman to the Twins. Now, the Twins have actually gotten good pitching out of. Everyone knew that Barrios was eventually going to be good, but Odorizzi's also pitched well, and so has Martin Perez.
Yeah.
But adding Stroman to the list would what?
Well, see, Stroman was on my dynasty roster for like 3 years in a row, right? I dropped him like earlier this year or end of last year.
It had to be end of last year because he's been playing very well.
Yeah, mostly because of injuries, and he didn't play a little good. Also because we have to axe our roster so much.
Yeah.
So he was one of the guys. All of a sudden now he's pitching really good again.
Yeah.
But he was on a cover of baseball video game.
I mean, he's had his moments. He's had his years, but injuries.
Yeah. So now maybe he's feeling good, and he's actually pitching very good right now. So that would be a great pickup for any team, the way he's pitching. So if you're hoping for the Twins to get him, I mean that's a good playoff ad, right? For a number 2 starter or something.
So that's what it would end up being. He'd either be 2 or 3 behind Odorizzi. I mean, the problem is that so the Blue Jays, obviously, they need to load up. I mean, they have Vladimir Guerrero, but the reason they would trade someone like that is for prospects. And
enough prospects?
Well, Twins have the best. Or San Diego has the best prospects, but Twins are right there still.
Yeah.
But I think the price is too steep, according to this article, that you'd have to do something like Royce Lewis and Alex Kirilloff to go
for Stroman.
For Stroman, I think that's too much. I think those 2 guys are high level prospects. Great, have a chance to be really good players in the majors in the next 3 to 4 years, and just to make a run now. The truth is that I don't know that Stroman. I still think that that if you're the Twins, even with Stroman, you have to hope that the Indians just keep playing poorly. I don't think that you've gotten better than the Indians. You just have to hope that they have a bad year. Does that make sense? Yeah. Stroman doesn't make you better. You know what does in 4 years? The Indians are older. Some of the players have left. Some of the, maybe injuries catch up to them, and you have players like Royce Lewis and Alex Kirilloff coming into their primes or coming into their young primes. You know what I mean? Being second year in the league and stuff.
Stroman
is not worth it.
Not winning a couple of titles will make it not worth it if they don't win a few
Yeah,
titles.
I don't think that's for those 2 guys. Let's say that's the trade. I don't think Stroman necessarily makes you better than the Indians. I think maybe it works out that the Twins still finish ahead of the Indians, but it'll be because the Indians have an off year because of injuries, just some bad luck. There could just be bad luck. And at the end of the year, if the Twins are ahead of the Indians, which they might be, it won't be because I think the Twins are a better team now. It'll be because I think the Indians had a bad year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I don't think Stroman puts you over that hump, especially if you have to trade 2 huge prospects like Royce Lewis and Alex Kirilloff. The other big trade, the other trade on here that he talks about is Madison Bumgarner to the Cardinals. I personally would hate this.
Well,
for a couple of reasons, just tradition.
Didn't he say a bunch of his no trade teams just to make more money.
And
is that one of them?
So this is mentioned. He's on that list, but that's because he knows that that's one of the teams that would go after him, and he can take more money from the Giants in a trade.
Well, aren't the Cardinals a long way or no? Not as far as you think.
Well, a few episodes ago, we talked about the Pacoda predictions.
Yeah,
and we were like Cardinals. Whoever had Cubs in last place, but really that NL Central was okay. Let's say these predictions are plus or minus 4 wins.
Yeah,
that means the Cubs could have been in second or first place. So that division is so tight.
Their pitching is slacking.
Yeah,
lacking, but like Flattery's good. They're just about to get back Carlos Martinez.
I think he's already back in the bullpen.
And Alex Reyes is coming back soon too.
So John Lester, Cole Hamels, Wainwright. So they got a good set of.
You're talking about the Cubs.
No.
I'm talking about the Cardinals.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading this article, and it says there's a bunch of accomplished. It would be a bunch of accomplished starters are in the same division. I'm sorry. I started reading names. So it would be a bunch of accomplished starters in the AL Central that's really, really tight. So, yeah, their pitching's lacking, but the truth is that division is so tight that any one of those teams could come ahead. I know the Cubs have been playing great lately.
So,
but anyone
could put somebody over there.
Yeah, and here's the real reason I hate the idea. So even though the Giants are the bigger Dodgers rival, over the last few years, I know the last couple of years the Dodgers have made the World Series, but over the years before that, it seems like the Cardinals were knocking us out. And Bumgarner going to the Cardinals, I just know the way the Dodgers history works of the last 30 years.
I mean, when the Cardinals...
we won't even make the play. We won't even... If the Cardinals make...
Didn't the Cardinals win a Tyler too?
Through the Dodgers?
That's what you're saying, years before that?
Yeah, so this is the way the story works. If Bumgarner goes to the Cardinals probably make it in through the wild card.
Title.
Not necessarily win the title, but beat the Dodgers, and the Dodgers don't. And it'll be the one time that the AL team that makes it to the World Series injured and fucked up. The Dodgers could finally win it because they're not playing because they played the hot-ass AL team the last 2 years, Houston and Boston. They were just hot as hell.
Yeah.
And then Boston didn't have a good year the prior year, and Houston didn't have a great year. They had an okay year last year. And then it would be the Cardinals knock them out, and it would be the one year the Dodgers could have taken it over, But that's why I would be against it. So the only problem is that, and the Cardinals actually have decent, because Bumgarner would be so expensive.
Yeah.
This article implies that the Cardinals actually would take, only trade. Money. They would pay the money or whatever it needs to be, and the prospect cost wouldn't be too much for them. And then the last one I want to throw out there. Well, there's two more. This one we can do short on. Anthony Rendon to the Yankees. Now, this implies that the national season is over, where really they're not playing that bad. They're not playing great, but it's not over. This implies that the Nationals are going to have a shitty year.
No, I mean, I think they don't have, they lost Harper. They're getting a little older. They
got Victor Ortiz, though, is basically his replacement. He hasn't played great, but Harper really only had one incredible year.
You talking about Soto?
No, well, I'm not Victor Ortiz. I'm talking about the dude on my team that was the number one prospect for a year. And then not Victor Ortiz. Robles, yeah. So Robles essentially is being used as his replacement. And for his rookie season, he's actually done okay.
They still have Scherzer, but it's like
you actually pronounced his name right.
Yeah, no, I figured I'd do a little different this time. I just think they lost some of their juice, and other teams are a little better in the NL.
In the East.
Well, I'm just talking NL.
So Braves,
Phillies,
Phillies.
Yeah.
So what this writer's assuming is that's going to happen. They're going to be completely out of it. The truth is that they have the tools. It's just never come together with Harper. There's, I guess, some hope that it comes together without him. So it's hard to say with that team. There's just been a team of disappointments. Yeah. And the truth is that the Phillies and Atlanta are only better. They're just young, and they're only going to get better.
Well, wouldn't a team like the Nationals, wouldn't they need? How about Bumgarner to the Nationals? Now you have Scherzer, Strasburg, and Bumgarner. That's a good 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, they can either do it without. They need to do it. Bumgarner doesn't put them over the hump if they're not over the hump. if that makes sense to me.
Yeah, but to get over the hump, don't you need just a little
I don't know that Bumgarner's the guy, though. You need another pitcher. You need
they have another pitcher. They have Scherzer and Strasburg.
And Strasburg. I hate even hearing Strasburg's name because he should be the best player in the league.
He was on his verge of being one of the best pitchers. And
too many injuries. And he had injuries coming up,
now
too.
Everybody forgot about him. Nobody even talks about him.
So this is the last interesting one. I don't think this one has any chance. Padres would be dumb to do it. But Noah Syndergaard, Thor, famous extra in Game of Thrones, to the Padres. So his top line numbers don't look good, 4.50 ERA, but he's actually pitching very well when you get into like the deeper numbers. Nonetheless, he's still Thor, injury prone too. Now the Padres look like they might have a good chance at a wild card shot this year.
They're going for their ace. I mean, the Padres are obviously have no problem spending money.
Yeah, and they have probably the best farm system in the league. I mean, you can always argue about farm systems, but they're up there.
But they don't have a number one pitcher right now.
They don't have a number one pitcher.
That makes sense.
And Chris Paddock is pitching like a number one pitcher, but he has a very, very clear innings limit. So that's going to show up eventually that they're going to have to stop pitching him.
Yeah.
Because he's too injured. Now, this is a lot like the other examples, just what it would cost the Padres. Now, they're saying so the Padres to get Thor and possibly not for a sign and trade. It would only be a borrow for the year, and I don't think Thor puts them over the hump for a World Series. It's not like getting Chris Sale. Would involve Mackenzie Gore and Francisco Mejia, and I think that's too expensive. I think when you're that deep,
younger guys,
Mackenzie Gore is a good chance to be, a real solid number two or three. And Francisco Mejia is a catcher.
He went on he hit like a 70 game or something crazy hit streak in the minors.
Yeah, so
he's a good hitter.
The problem is that it feels like whenever a catcher is very lauded, like I'm thinking Matt Wieters, I'm thinking Travis d'Arnaud, that they never come up and play that well here.
Mejia is on the IL right now,
and he's on the IL kind of thing. So I still think that's too steep. I think that you need to be the Dodgers or the Red Sox or the Astros to make that trade for a player like Noah. Because you already got a big chance at the World Series. I don't think
the Padres have a big chance.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I was going to say.
Yeah, they have a chance at the playoffs, but trading your youth.
No, you would only be trading it for seats in the stadium.
Exactly.
Because now you have Syndergaard, Machado. You got a little chatter. And people are buying this.
And if they get hot,
you're not really gonna.
If they get hot, maybe they can knock out a team like the Phillies or the Braves in the playoffs, and it'll be an upset. And just because they get hot, because they got players, and maybe if Noah's there, kind of thing. But I don't think you trade away your youth like that for Thor.
No,
when you're not sure if he's going to stay.
No, unless they're playing the long game. Like if you had Thor, Paddock, like you said, right, and you can convince another number one pitcher to come to San Diego, which shouldn't be that hard to convince, then you might have something.
I may have misspoke.
They would need another pitcher.
I may have misspoke. Okay, I misspoke because this wouldn't be a borrow. It wouldn't be like a Machado borrow that the Dodgers did. He's under contractual control through 2021. So you wouldn't be losing him. You'd actually be getting Thor for the next 2 years. And it would cost you Mejia and Mackenzie Gore. That makes a little bit more sense.
I would say the Padres would be smart to do it if they were already talking or convinced that they can get another dominant pitcher, is what I'm saying.
Another dominant?
Yeah, because
next year Chris Paddock would probably be off his injury.
Well, that's what I mean.
Innings limit.
If you had Paddock, Syndergaard, and you had another top number one pitcher, and you have the young guys, you have Machado, I think Padres all of a sudden are looking a lot better.
Yeah, they look good now just with their youth. But see, the thing is though, okay, by the time all that happens, that's 2-3 years. Mackenzie Gore and Mejia and some of that youth is already in the team, you know? So, the Padres are in another spot. And the thing with the Padres is they've, over the last decade, they've had these moments where you get real excited about what they're doing. And then it just, remember when they got Chase Headley, or not Chase Headley. Chase Headley was someone actually that came up and everyone thought this would be great and was a bust.
Who are you talking about?
I just felt like the Padres are always about to do well. That new GM from 3 years ago did a bunch of stuff and then it didn't work out. The Hosmer trade.
Oh, okay.
Now Hosmer's not actually that good, and he's making huge money. You know,
So
he's had one good year.
He's dying out right now.
He's not.
That was a big signing.
I mean, he had the one good year, dude. I'm a guy that fucking kept drafting Hosmer. The one year I don't draft him, he becomes one of the best players in the league, and then he goes to the Padres and didn't have a great year last year. So
he signed a couple $100 million, and then he just goes chill on the beach.
Whatever it is, I don't know what that is, but it's a lot of money, way more than he's worth. It turns out. Anyway, I think that's our show for today. You can find us at Chaotic Sports on Twitter. You can find me at Chris Sarda on Twitter, chaoticsports.com. We hit everything. This is just chaos, DIY, babies playing and screaming in the background because you're the coach. I mean, this guy's going to be on the podcast till he actually has something to say on the podcast. We're going to see him evolve on it.
One day he'll actually do a segment on the podcast. Is that possible?
One day you're going to be saying LeBron's not the greatest ever. He's going to be, Uncle Angelo, you are dumb. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. You guys have a great day, and hasta la vista.